The private school rankings from around the nation were released just over a week ago, or 2 or 3 weeks ago now actually, and the papers have been filled with stories about how each school hits, how each school is serving our kids. Now, I'm going to be really clear, I don't like this stuff. Parents are scrolling through lists, they're calculating fees, and they're wondering, should I be doing more for my child's education? Are we failing by staying public? What can I do to put myself into greater financial debt so that I can give my child the opportunity to go to a school that has this ranking or this particular outcome? Today, we're cutting through the marketing hype to look at what the research actually says about school choice. And you might be surprised by what really matters for your child's future. Stay with us. Hello and welcome to the Happy Families Podcast, real parenting solutions every day on Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. We are Justin and Kylie Coulson. Kylie, incidentally, we received via happyfamilies.com.au, somebody sent us a voice note asking a question about what to do about choosing a high school for their kids. Here's what Joe said.
Good morning, Happy Families. Joe here from Canberra. I was hoping for some advice about what to look for, or what kind of questions to ask, or what research to do when looking for a high school for children. Thank you.
I feel like we've gone through this conversation maybe a handful of times in our home. More than a handful, because our children haven't stayed at the same school. This is a really hard question for parents to grapple with.
Yeah, all the time. Really, really frustrating. And there's so much information out there as well. I'm not a big fan of these school rankings. What about you?
No, I feel like it creates this idea of exclusivity, and it's competitive, right? And the more competitive a school is, the more they can charge. And then families find themselves in this position where they want their children to have the best possible outcomes that they can give them, and they're willing to do anything for that. And having been in that position where we put our children into a school that we probably really shouldn't have been able to afford, and the emotional, mental and financial stress that we sat in for that 2 years was ridiculous, and it didn't benefit anyone in the long run.
No, it was really, really, really a heavy load to carry, and pulling the kids out of that school simply from the anxiety reduction that it created for us. We went backwards financially for a couple of years, and pretty soon you get to a point where you've got nothing left and you're going, we can't keep on doing this. It's very, very difficult.
And interestingly, the contrast to that, we put our children into the public school system and they thrived.
They were really happy there, yeah. So let's have a quick chat about this. In a nutshell, single-sex schools are dominating based on these recent rankings. Fees in some of these schools are approaching $45,000 a year. That doesn't include if you're boarding, because the numbers go up even more for boarding. And
how do families afford this?
I don't know. The marketing promises sound really compelling. Here's what I want to explore today. What does the evidence actually tell us about school choice, and what should parents really focus on? So let's kick off with a conversation about private versus public. Quick reality check. Recent Australian research following thousands of students found that NAPLAN scores of kids in private schools were no different to those in public schools when you account for socioeconomic background. So let me say that again, because statistically this can sound a little bit confusing for some people. When you control statistically for family circumstances, private schools aren't actually producing better outcomes.
So just so I'm clear, what you're suggesting is they're looking at families from the same socioeconomic in both public and private. Is that right?
That's exactly right. So what we know is that public schools generally draw from a broader socioeconomic catchment. That is, you've got people who can't afford private schools, so they're much lower on the socioeconomic scale, as well as plenty of people who can afford it but choose not to spend their money on private schools. So you've got a much broader range. So when you look at the overall outcome of the public school compared with the fancy private school down the road, the private school wins hands down on NAPLAN scores, right? They just win. But once you partial out, once you account for statistically the socioeconomic circumstances of some students, so you start to compare like against like, no difference. And this, I mean, I've always said, you show me the postcode and I'll tell you what the NAPLAN scores are. It's got nothing to do with the school. It's got everything to do with the postcode. That's why there's a postcode premium that real estate agents really leverage, because if the home is near a school in the right postcode, people will pay a premium because they want to be in the right postcode. Why? Because
they want to be in the catchment.
Well, yeah, and you're in a school where a whole lot of families are saying we value education because we're earning the money because we got our good educations ourselves. That's how that kind of works. Study after study after study, including analysis of 68 education systems that are participating in the international PISA tests, shows that private school attendance is not consistently related to higher test performance. There was also an analysis recently in Victoria. The VCE results showed public schools are actually outperforming private schools when you compare schools with similar socioeconomic rankings.
So what are parents really buying for $45,000?
Oh, so what I'm going to say may sound really cynical. I'm going to say it anyway. They're purchasing the illusion of superiority, and they're purchasing the comfort of social segregation. It's a class system. Private schools have become luxury brands, and they deliver status rather than outcomes, right? Private school, it's like walking through the airport and you've got the LVMH bag, you've got the fancy bag with the Louis Vuitton bag with the logos, right? And you just get to feel a little bit superior. That's one thing that private schools provide. Now, am I saying that every family who sends their kids to a private school therefore gets to feel superior? No, I'm not doing that at all. What I'm saying is that the private schools now market themselves as luxury brands, and in so doing, they become aspirational. Everybody wants their kids to have the luxury. We all want the very best for our kids. So this is not a slight on the kids. This is about the class system that we've built in education around this. We're so invested in the promise that we spend the dough and we don't look at what the statistics actually show.
I know that when we've gone through this process a handful of times, the schools have basically told us that it's not us choosing them, it's whether or not they choose us.
Yeah.
You know, that notion of exclusivity.
Absolutely. Kylie, let me say this. I get to work in a lot of these schools, and maybe after today's podcast, I never will again. I don't know. But these schools are astonishing. I mean, they've got these incredible Olympic level pools. They've got green fields. They've got beautiful views and grounds. I've been in some schools where the views you literally cannot buy. So
state-of-the-art technology.
Yeah, if you've got $45K a year to spend, you're going to get smaller classes, you're going to get more resources, you're going to get broader subject offerings. The co-curricular programming is exceptional, and you will get a very different school culture. And I would even go so far as to say that these things matter for the school experience, even if they don't necessarily translate to better outcomes. And when I'm in those schools, generally speaking, the kids are pretty happy. They're not worried about the same sort of things that kids in maybe the public school down the road are worried about. But here's the thing. We're only talking today about academics, and public schools are achieving comparable results while serving a vastly different population. Disadvantaged students account for 46% of public school enrollments compared to only 20% in private schools. Public schools are doing more with less, and frankly, they're doing it well. So is private better? I think that it just depends on how you measure better, what better means to you. Better resourced? Absolutely. It's undeniable. Better for your child's learning? The evidence suggests probably not, at least not in ways that show up in academic achievement. The question that I ask myself is this. Would I pay $45,000 a year? I think the local private school down the road from us is about $25,000 or $28,000 here on the Sunshine Coast, and that's one of the highest fee-paying schools on the coast. Would I pay that $30,000 a year if I had the money? I can't say for certain that I would or I wouldn't. We don't have the choice, so I don't have to make the decision. But based on the research, I'm not convinced that that would be the best use of our resources. After the break, I'll tell you what is the best use of your resources when it comes to your children and education. Okay, it's vexed, it's emotional, and people really struggle when they're making these decisions. Here's what the research says about children and education outcomes. I want to talk about two ideas. One is the teacher factor, and one is what's known as the proximity principle. Teachers matter more to student achievement than any other school-related factor.
And I wish every teacher understood that.
I think many of them do. I want to make this point really clear. Whether I'm in private or public schools or Christian schools or non-denominational schools or alternative schools, it doesn't matter what school I go to, the overwhelming majority of teachers that I work with, they love their work and they love the students. They struggle with the system. Most teachers will tell me the system is not fair on us or on the kids, but they love their work and they love the students. I get goosebumps talking about it because you can just tell the professionalism, the enthusiasm, the desire for the overwhelming majority. I'd say 80 to 90% of teachers are just in it for all the right reasons. But when you look at school factors, teachers are estimated to have 2 to 3 times the effect of any other element, including the facilities and the resources and the leadership. You get this. Students assigned to high value-added teachers are more likely to graduate from high school, go to university, be employed, and earn higher wages. I found this study from Harvard economist Raj Chetty. Now, this was a controversial study that he published, and it was in the US, but I think that it's enough for us to at least have a conversation about. He and his colleagues found that replacing a bottom 5% teacher with just an average teacher would increase students' lifetime income by more than $250,000. In other words, teachers make a huge difference.
As you're talking about that, I'm thinking about so many different teachers in our children's lives who were so instrumental in sparking our kids' curiosity. And one teacher in particular comes to mind. His name was Mr. Cotter. He was a science teacher. And Chanel, our eldest, she hated science. And one day she came home and we were talking and she said, I just love science. I just love it so much. And I looked at her and I went,
what is going on here?
When did that change?
Yep.
And she said, my teacher just brings it to life. And what's amazing is all these years later, she's actually gone science-based and she's in midwifery. I love that this teacher sparked in her something that she never would have gone to had he have not shared with her his passion and love for all things science.
Yep. You can't buy it. You can't guarantee it. It's got nothing to do with school fees. It's all about relationship and inspiration. So let's bring this home and wrap it up. What should you be looking for? If we were to answer our Canberra mums question about trying to select a school, what should you be looking for? This is my list. Number one, I'm going to say focus on school proximity to your home. And I'll tell you why. Students who feel more connected to school have higher attendance rates. They have higher academic outcomes. They have better mental health. Kellyanne Allen from University of Melbourne has done a whole lot of research on school belonging, her and her colleague Diana Vella Broderick. And what they find is that when kids feel like they belong in their school, they just do better, both inside school and outside of school. Plus, when you choose a school inside your local community, your kids are much more likely to have friends nearby. They're more likely to participate in after-school activities with those friends and feel genuinely connected, not just to their school environment, but to their home environment as well.
What we've found over the years as our kids have gone to different private schools is often kids are travelling 50 minutes, an hour and a half.
Let's catch up on the weekend. Yeah, we live like on the other side of town. It's nuts.
And it's so hard. And kids have basically said, my parents won't drive me.
Yeah.
And it's really, really challenging.
And you know why the parents won't drive them? Because the parents are exhausted because they're absolutely smashing themselves so they can pay the school fees to get the kids the best opportunity they can when the school down the road could help. Australia's public education system is actually really good by international standards. So unless you've got really strong values-based reasons for avoiding public schools, and I think that's a legitimate consideration, your child is likely to do just as well academically in a quality local public school. We've always said don't look at results, resources, and reputation. Instead, look at fun, friends, and the philosophy of the school.
I was about to say that for me, it's a values-based thing. What are the things that I value most? And then go from there. And for me, relationships are high on the list. I wouldn't be sending my children to a school because their best friend goes there necessarily. I would be sending them to a school where a number of their friends go. As we know, relationships
chop and change.
Can be really transient. And if there's only one person that they're counting on, that's going to be challenging. But if they have multiple kids who go there that they enjoy spending time with, they're going to feel a lot better because they already feel a sense of belonging.
All right, we're out of time, but I want to do some maths with you really quickly.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, no, I got really excited about doing this. I was just thinking about how much money we spend on school fees as an Australian community, right? So first of all, let me again emphasise, look for the great teachers and stay in your local community if you can. Like if you send your kids to a good local school and then you invest the time that you save on commuting in family activities and community connections and sleep, and like you're just going to have a better life. Research shows that students who feel supported by teachers and peers just have better outcomes. But if you're determined to spend that $45,000 each year, this is the maths that I did. Let's say instead of a high fee paying school, we're just going to go with a low fee paying school, which is usually somewhere around about $10,000. So if you were to invest $10,000 per year in an index fund from age 12 through to 18, your child's high school years, that's $60,000 that you're investing. With conservative 7% returns, your child at the age of 35 will have $273,000. And if you have an optimistic 10% return, you're going to have $500,000 at the age of 35. That's a significant head start in your mid-30s when you really need the dough. But then I got really ambitious. So let's say you're going to spend $25,000 a year that a lot of elite private schools actually cost when you factor in all the extras. If you invest that same amount, so I still haven't gone to the $45,000, but let's say it's $25K because it's an expensive private school. Let's say you invest that in the market instead and your child walks into adulthood at the age of 35, that $25K a year over 6 years, it's $150K. But because of the way compounding works, once they're 35, that's $683,000 that it'll have become. Or if you get those 10% returns, it'll be $1.2 million. Like, we are literally talking about giving your children enough money to buy a house outright or start a business or never worry about money again. So that's not giving them an education. They'll get the education in the public system anyway. What that is generational wealth transfer. But I mean, we can keep on obsessing over school uniforms and Latin programs if we want. I don't know. That's my cynical take on it. Or you can do what we've done and choose homeschool and use targeted tutoring because it gives us maximum flexibility and it allows us to tailor education to our children's needs and cost a fraction of private school fees while it potentially delivers great outcomes because of the personalised learning. Anyway, Joe, thanks for the question. Maybe I've gone too far. Maybe we've said too much, but hopefully the whole idea of this conversation is not to tell you that we're right. It's to provoke thinking around the education decisions that we're making. The rankings and the marketing are always going to try and convince you that more expensive equals better. But I think the research tells a different story. Focus on finding good teachers, build great school connection, create a learning-rich home environment. I think those factors are going to serve your kids far better than any school ranking ever will.
Well, for now, I'm just grateful we don't have to make any decisions around school. It's homeschooling all the way.
Yeah, although she's been making some noises. I know. We really hope this has given you something to think about. Thanks so much for listening to the Happy Families podcast. If you know somebody who would benefit from this conversation, please share the podcast episode with them. We'd love to be able to make a difference in as many families as we possibly can. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media, and Mim Hammonds provides additional research and admin support. If you would like more information and resources to make your family happier, visit us at happyfamilies.com.au.